next K on your radar. Get ready to ride the wave of K-culture's latest trends.
It's March 11th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with possible recession risks in the U.S. Recession fears triggered by U.S. President Donald Trump led to a major Wall Street sell-off on Monday, with the Nasdaq closing down more than 4%. And the White House attempted to put out the fire by taming worries over Trump's tariff uncertainties. North Korea on Tuesday continued to lash out at South Korea and the U.S. for their 11-day joint military drills. The regime, however, made no report on its ballistic missile launches detected the previous day. South Korea is under a heavy blanket of fine dust, with yellow dust continuing to flow in from China, pushing authorities to issue spring's first emergency fine dust reduction measures in the metropolitan area. Wall Street had a rough start to the week on Monday, with investors dumping stocks, rattled by mounting recession fears over Trump's shifting trade policies. Our Moon Hae-ryun reports.
Wall Street saw an ocean of red as investors began selling their shares as soon as financial markets opened Monday amid heightened fears of a U.S. recession. The benchmark S&P 500 shed 2.7%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq showed its biggest drop in more than 2 years as it slumped by 4%. Big tech stocks, including Apple and Microsoft, both members of the so-called Magnificent Seven, were at the center of the selling. Tesla plummeted by more than 15%, while chip giant Nvidia fell by more than 5%. Outside of stocks, Bitcoin also slipped below the $80,000 mark, returning to levels before Trump's inauguration. Comments made by U.S. President Donald Trump in an interview with Fox News on Sunday, when asked about whether he expects a recession this year, stoked market concerns.
There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of it takes a little time.
Experts say that the risk of recession is something that Washington is viewing as a necessary evil for the greater good, and they say that this is reflected in Trump's blasé response to recession fears.
These are things that they're willing to accept for that longer term, more stable, more self-reliant, stronger position for the U.S.
And this was supported by the White House on Monday, as its economic advisor Kevin Hassett pushed back on talks of a recession while calling a potential contraction a very temporary phenomenon. He backed Trump's tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, claiming that the measures would bring jobs and manufacturing back to the U.S. This comes amid heightened uncertainty around the Trump administration's on-again, off-again tariff policies, with levies on Mexico and Canada pushed back yet again to April 2nd for goods under the free trade agreement between the U.S. and the two neighboring countries. With the U.S. set to impose another wave of tariffs on steel and aluminium starting Wednesday, eyes are on how markets will respond. 문혜련, Arirang News.
And as stocks plummet, major investment bank Goldman Sachs slashed its economic growth forecast for the U.S. On Monday, CNBC reported that the firm adjusted its 2.4% growth forecast for gross domestic product to 1.7%. Goldman's chief economist said the reason behind this significant downgrade was fears that the new administration's tariff policies would prompt economic weakness as the outlook regarding tariffs becomes more adverse. Recent figures have seen economic growth slowing in the U.S., with the economy expanding at 2.3% in the fourth quarter of last year, compared to a 3.1% growth in the previous quarter. North Korea has not addressed its latest missile launch conducted on Monday, something it typically does the day before, the day after. Instead, the regime's media have focused on condemning the ongoing South Korea-U.S. military drill. Our Choi Min-jung reports.
North Korea fired what are presumed to be multiple close-range ballistic missiles toward the West Sea on Monday, but the regime state media has remained silent about the launch. As of 7 a.m. Tuesday, the regime's Korean Central News Agency and Rodong-sinmun had yet to report on the missile launch conducted the previous day. North Korea typically acknowledges its ballistic missile launches the following morning through state media, often framing them as test firings. However, this time it has made no mention of the launch. Instead, the KCNA criticized the ongoing South Korea-U.S. Freedom Shield joint military exercise. It labeled the exercise a provocative and confrontational war rehearsal and denounced the drills as the largest ever joint military exercise carried out in an unprecedentedly reckless manner. It also claimed the exercise clearly exposes who is responsible for escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula. The Rodong-sinmun called the drills a nuclear war exercise, citing the mobilization of advanced nuclear weapons. The criticisms come as Seoul and Washington's annual Freedom Shield exercise kicked off on Monday. Following the North's launch, the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command issued a statement calling on Pyongyang to refrain from further unlawful and destabilizing acts. It added that U.S. commitments to the defense of South Korea and Japan remain ironclad. The EU also denounced North Korea's latest ballistic missile launch, stating that it threatens regional security, heightened tensions, and violates UN Security Council resolutions. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
So, as our Choi Min-jung reported, this is quite unusual for North Korea, considering the North normally publicizes its missile launches the following day. Let's turn to Stephen Norper, president of Asia Dialogue, to read behind the intentions. Welcome back.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Thanks for joining us. So why no mention, although this is no surprise that North Korea is slamming South Korea and the U.S. for the joint military drills?
Certainly, and that is likely their main focus. They really want to keep the eye on their criticism of the exercise. They know that there has been some fissure in U.S.-South Korea relations over the martial law issue and the fact that the U.S. was not appraised. And they're interested in moving forward with Donald Trump in talks, though not mentioning it overtly. So by going ahead and launching, they show strength from their perspective. In refraining from too much mention, they provide some wiggle room should the Trump administration approach them and try to open doors in terms of talks. This is the type of thing, too, that was on the table for negotiation before. If we remember, they ceased exercises, and that may also be part of the intention of the DPRK in trying to play this down, showing on one hand a muscularity, and on the other hand, maybe taking a slightly quieter tone in terms of its pronouncements about the missiles themselves, which were close-range missiles.
So this joint drill that North Korea is clearly not happy about. The Freedom Shield is an annual drill, but what makes this year's edition more noticeable and possibly noteworthy?
Well, more noteworthy is the fact that we have a huge transition in Washington, that the international alliances are shaping up differently, and the DPRK may see itself in an advantageous situation relative to the rapprochement between the United States and Russia. The fact that the Ukraine war seems to be going, as Donald Trump interprets it, in a different direction with his putting culpability on Ukraine. So for the DPRK, they're probably waiting and seeing, and the exercises in that regard may try to signal from a U.S. and a South Korean perspective resolve and a reassurance on the strength of the alliance. But from a DPRK perspective, they do see it as threatening, but they may see in the longer term some possibilities for working with the United States, especially if the U.S. and Russia coordinate an end to the Ukraine war, and if the DPRK considers itself as having successfully backed Russia in that regard.
Well, I do have to point out live fire drills will not take place this time after South Korea's KF-16 fighter jets accidentally dropped bombs on a civilian village last week. Now, should this be a concern for conducting joint drills and possibly boosting the readiness posture?
Oh, absolutely. And you've seen that in terms of the response of the people living in and around Pocheon. And these types of things are always risky, right? They carry a certain level. So de-escalating is important. And as you've mentioned, the real takeaway from these exercises may likely be that accident and the fact that it did create quite a situation, which now has been apologized for by the Air Force chief, but is something that will be continually addressed as we look at issues of safety. Remember, safety around conventional weaponry, around exercises like these, but let's also not forget, especially at a time when the DPRK may be considering nuclear tests or other things to up its ante with Washington, that there are also nuclear safety and other issues. So when we're talking about such heavily militarized activity around the DMZ, it's important to remember that there is a risk attendant to that. And so we need to try to find ways to cool that, and clearly holding off on more live fire is an important step.
Indeed. Now, going back to what you mentioned, I'd like to delve deeper into what is on Trump's mind at the moment. He seems pretty occupied with the Ukraine crisis and also the tariffs. When will Trump turn to North Korea and related issues on the Korean Peninsula?
It's an excellent question. Well, Trump has been absorbed first and foremost with domestic issues and these firings and aspects of drawing down the federal government, the dismantlement alongside Elon Musk of the government as it has evolved over the last several decades. And so the domestic focus is first and foremost. Ukraine has been at the fore, and we certainly saw the insult to Ukrainian President Zelensky when he visited the Oval Office. And we have been very concerned about where Trump has gone with that. And also this improvement of relations with Putin and trying to rewrite the narrative of the Ukraine war have all been foremost for this administration. The question now is, where will they go? No doubt they're thinking about North Korea. I would say they have reached out and thought about it more than probably public accounts allow. Trump considered his bromance with Kim Jong-un to be a highlight of his first administration. No doubt he is interested in developing the DPRK to some extent. Perhaps we'll hear referencing the way we did around Gaza to the idea of developing something alongside the DPRK. And he does seem to feel that his personal diplomacy with DPRK leader Kim Jong-un is something that may pay off, and there may be benefits. But everyone is probably waiting to see how Ukraine is resolved. And I'm certain that the DPRK is watching Russia-U.S. relations, perhaps with a little bit of concern, but also maybe seeing a benefit in that in the long term for its own negotiating position.
Definitely. Well, I was going to ask you how North Korea may be viewing Trump's apparent, indifference to the regime. But are you saying that there could have been some sort of, behind the closed door, talks between the U.S. and North Korea?
Well, certainly, and we know that the Trump administration reached out to the DPRK in the period before the inauguration. Trump seems to have signaled a willingness, clearly at Mar-a-Lago and likely now in the White House. Certainly that is on the table. It's something that he, again, considers to have been part of his personal legacy. And so we'll see where he turns after Ukraine. And of course, this has raised a lot of eyebrows in terms of the European allies who are themselves feeling disregarded, of course, with South Korea, which is concerned about being passed over in this regard. And so there's a lot of work to be done for the United States and reassurances to be made. That said, Trump may feel that dealing very directly with the North Koreans is a next step for him, and I would look for that in coming weeks. It will be interesting to see, should the DPRK decide to up the ante beyond things like close-range ballistic missiles. They did with showing Saturday this nuclear submarine,
right.
But should they test nuclear or raise other concerns, that may put them at a disadvantage. So it's probably very carefully calibrated by both Pyongyang and Washington now in terms of next steps in that dialogue.
Definitely. Alrighty, Dr. Nupper, thank you so much for connecting with us all the way from Hawaii this morning. We appreciate it.
Aloha, and thank you.
Now, in other news, according to Ukraine's top military commander, North Korean troops are taking part in counteroffensives in Russia's Kursk region. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
Ukraine's top military commander Alexander Syrsky said Monday that North Korean soldiers have taken part in Russian military counteroffensives to recapture territory in Kursk lost to Ukrainian forces. According to Reuters and AFP, General Syrsky said on social media that a significant number of Russian troops, supported by North Korean soldiers, went on the offensive, but suffered significant losses in troops and equipment. The comments come amid reports that the Russian military has been successful in its counteroffensive against Ukraine in the Kursk region after the U.S. cut off military support for Kyiv. The Russian military also claimed that it had recaptured a number of villages in the Kursk region. Meanwhile, high-level meetings will be held in Saudi Arabia between officials from the United States and Ukraine this week. Ukrainian diplomatic and military leaders will hold talks with U.S. officials on Tuesday. This includes U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who expressed confidence that the talks with Kyiv will lead to a positive outcome, but insists Ukraine needs to make concessions. Rubio also stressed that while Russia cannot conquer all of Ukraine, it'll be very difficult for Ukraine in any reasonable time period to get back territory lost to Moscow since 2014. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump's envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, is set to visit Moscow for a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. According to sources familiar with the matter, the visit comes as the administration looks to secure a ceasefire. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
On the political front now, President Yoon Suk-yeol's release from custody has left politics in a wrangle, with rival parties taking respective legal actions. Our correspondent Shin Ha-young has more.
After President Yoon Suk-yeol was released from his Seoul detention center, the dispute between the rival parties escalated into legal complaints against investigative agencies. The ruling People Power Party has been pressuring the Constitutional Court since the release.
The Constitutional Court judges should stay firm and make the right decision based on their conscience, beliefs, and legal judgment, without being swayed by the opposition's unconstitutional claims.
The PPP on Monday filed a complaint with the Supreme Prosecutor's Office against Oh Dong-un, head of the CIO. It argued that the agency overstepped its authority by arresting the president on insurrection charges, leading to an illegal arrest through an abuse of power. Meanwhile, the main opposition Democratic Party has criticized the prosecution for not challenging the Seoul Central District Court's decision to cancel the detention. The DP and other opposition parties filed a complaint to the CIO against Prosecutor General Shim Woo-jung and called for his resignation and are even looking to pass an impeachment motion against him.
The prosecution simply repeated Yoon Suk-yeol and the PPP's claims, taking the lead in protecting Yoon, the chief conspirator of the insurrection.
In response to the opposition's pressure, Prosecutor General Shim said on Monday that his decision not to appeal the court ruling was based on due process of law.
The court clearly ruled that it violates the principles of warrants, due process, and the principle of proportionality. We felt that raising more constitutional issues by filing an immediate appeal wasn't the right thing to do.
Shim stated that his decision did not justify his resignation or impeachment, adding that he would respond accordingly if the National Assembly moves forward with impeachment. 신하영, Arirang News.
In the meantime, building on decades of the Seoul-Washington alliance, the National Assembly has opened an official bipartisan group that aims to strengthen engagement with American lawmakers. Our political correspondent Lee Si-hoo reports.
A first in over 76 years of its history, South Korea's National Assembly on Monday celebrated the launch of an official bipartisan group of lawmakers aimed at strengthening interactions with the members of the U.S. Congress.
It is now time for parliamentary diplomacy to shine its light. I ask that you communicate closely and strengthen the alliance between South Korea and the U.S. I, too, as the Speaker, will support your efforts along the way.
Speaker Woo, in his congratulatory speech, shared his optimism for greater diplomatic endeavors between the two countries' legislators. Over 160 South Korean lawmakers have joined the new exchange group to engage with 180 of their counterparts in the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives who are part of the Korea Caucus. Joseph Yoon, the U.S. interim ambassador to South Korea, also highlighted the importance of cooperation between the two at the event. On the agenda this year are comprehensive trade talks, also involving major firms and think tanks, as well as group visits to the U.S. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Spring's first emergency fine-dust reduction measures have been issued for South Korea's metropolitan region. And the Ministry of Environment issued the emergency measures on Tuesday due to the high concentration of fine dust in Seoul, Gyeonggi-do Province, and Incheon areas between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. With the measures in place, grade 5 emission vehicles will be prohibited from operating, while work at construction sites must be scaled back. A higher level of fine dust is expected to continue until Thursday due to an inflow of yellow dust from China.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. Starting off the east coast of England, an oil tanker and a cargo ship have collided, leading to fires and environmental concerns due to leaking fuel. On Monday, the U.S.-flagged oil tanker Stena Immaculate and the Portuguese-flagged cargo vessel So Long collided in the North Sea near the Humber estuary. The Stena Immaculate, anchored at the time and carrying jet fuel for the U.S. military, suffered ruptured cargo tanks after the collision, resulting in explosions and a subsequent fire. The So Long, reportedly transporting sodium cyanide, also caught fire. Emergency response teams rescued 36 individuals from both vessels. One person was taken to the hospital and one person is reportedly missing. Experts are currently assessing the environmental impact of the collision, noting that while the leaking jet fuel evaporates more quickly than crude oil, the potential release of sodium cyanide presents additional risks. Greenland is set to hold its parliamentary election on Tuesday local time, attracting significant international attention due to recent comments by U.S. President Donald Trump regarding his interest in acquiring the world's largest island. Greenland's electorate will vote to fill all 31 seats in the parliament on Tuesday. Approximately 40,500 of Greenland's 57,000 residents are eligible to vote, and some Greenlanders cast early ballots on Monday. The election's central issue is whether it should pursue independence from Denmark, as the island remains a self-governing territory of the country. Recent statements by U.S. President Donald Trump proposing that Greenland could join the United States have intensified this debate. The election's outcome is unpredictable, with Greenlanders emphasizing their right to self-determination amid external pressures. In Guatemala, the country's volcano of fire, located 53 kilometers from the capital Guatemala City, erupted on Sunday night local time, prompting authorities to evacuate almost 300 families and caution that an additional 30,000 residents could be at risk. The 3,763-meter volcano, among Central America's most active, expelled gas and ash high into the atmosphere, leading to the closure of nearby schools and a major roadway connecting local communities. Emergency services are on high alert and are closely monitoring the situation. An eruption in 2018 killed over 190 people and left approximately 230 missing. In India's northern city of Varanasi, a major Hindu pilgrimage town, people celebrated Holi, the festival of colors that signifies the arrival of spring and the triumph of good over evil. The devotees, drenched in colored powder, enjoyed cultural performances as they immersed themselves in the festival spirit at a temple for Hindus. Festivities of Holi reached their peak on March 13th and 14th.
The warm spring vibes are sticking around, but so is the dusty air, especially across the western parts of Korea. While emergency fine dust reduction measures are in place in the capital area, and I saw many people without a face mask on yesterday, assuming many would rather enjoy spring warmth. But Chungcheong-namdo and the capital region will be trapped in high levels of dust all day today, so please keep it on. After a chilly start, temperatures will rise rapidly, and Seoul will see a high of 15 degrees Celsius this afternoon. And tomorrow, we are expecting some spotty rain in the capital region. And this afternoon, Seoul will see a high of 15 degrees, Daejeon, Daegu at 17, Gyeongju, Gwangju will see a high of 18 degrees Celsius. Now, it looks like warming trend will continue throughout the week. The nationwide rain on Sunday will bring a slight chill to the country early next week. But once again, the dusty air is expected for most of the western regions, so please keep the face mask on.
That's all we have for our morning edition of Arirang News. We'll be back with more stories making the headlines at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
How to survive in Korea. Cafes. Step 1. Find a seat. Before ordering, find a seat. Laptop ID, smartphone, jacket, whatever that can mark your territory. But no bites. It's a little too big. Step 2. Pick up. We do not ask or call your name. We call out, B69번 고객님. The buzzer will vibrate when your order is ready at the counter. Wait, got your straw? Keep the top of the wrapper on. Doing this is more hygienic. Step 3. Cafe etiquette. If you need to use your laptop, find a seat next to a socket. No extra charge for using electricity. But if you're staying over 3 hours, how about ordering another drink or dessert? Step 4. Last bite standing. There's a mysterious custom in Korea. The last bite standing. When there's about 1 bite left of that cake, nobody will go for it. You might be tempted, but don't be hasty. Right before you get up, take the last piece, saying that you simply can't waste food, or just leave it. It will save a few calories. Did you survive at the cafe? Did someone behind the counter catch your eye? Go for the same drink every single day.
오늘도 아이스 말차 라떼 드실 거죠?
You might make an impression.
Hi, Chef Ryan here. Today we're making a spicy, sticky, sweet, and crunchy braised codfish.
We're here to bring a new type of news show. New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Tuesday, March 11th here in Seoul. I'm Songjin, and thanks for joining us on News Generation. Joining us this Tuesday is Kwon Ju-yeon. Happy Tuesday and happy spring. Happy spring. And Im Sang-yeon.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you also. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. So we're going to begin with our keyword news. Our keyword for this Tuesday is Mickey 17. Directed by Academy Award-winning filmmaker Bong Joon-ho and starring Robert Pattinson, the sci-fi film has topped the North American box office. In its opening weekend, Mickey 17 earned approximately $19.1 million, surpassing Captain America: Brave New World to claim the top spot. Now, this achievement marks Bong as the first Korean director to have a film debut at #1 in North America. So have you had the chance to watch this film? And if you haven't, what about those around you?
No, I haven't watched it yet. Well, Director Bong is undoubtedly a great filmmaker, but actually his movies are not really my taste. But if I get a chance to watch it, I'm definitely going to do it. But according to others who watched Mickey 17, they mentioned that this film is quite different from Director Bong's past movies. They mentioned that the film shares similar messages with the past movies like Parasite or Okja, but they also said that the tone and the mood of the film is less dark and solemn compared to his previous films. But unfortunately, the critics' rating of Mickey 17 was lower than expected. The Rotten Tomato rating for this film was 79%, and this is quite low when we consider that the Parasite's rating was 95%. So even though Director Bong's films are not my favorite, I hope that Mickey 17 gain more audience as we move forward, because as a Korean citizen, I hope that Korean movies garner more attention on global stage.
Right, and it is also Director Bong's first film after Parasite, which is a very big new release for him. What about you, Jian?
Well, I haven't seen the movie yet, but it is definitely on my watch list this time. Well, you know, some people around me have watched it, including our PD Nimrao producer, and said it's quite interesting. And, you know, if you think about Bong Joon-ho's movie, his films always have this message to have depth-giving, strong social and sometimes psychological messages to the audience. So if you look at the movie Okja and Parasite, these are prime examples. It tackles themes of corporate greed, class struggle, and sometimes human morality for the audience. And spoiler alert, everybody, Mickey 17, Mickey is repeatedly, he generates himself, regenerated, and he begins questioning his existence and purpose. But think about it. Sometimes we question ourselves, our existence and purpose. We think about our life sometimes. So the movie seems to look into and explains, excuse me, that for us, for all of us. And so I'll definitely give it a watch this time.
It sounds quite interesting. And we'll keep an eye on how well Mickey 17 does, not only in North America, but around theaters around the world. And that was our keyword news for this Tuesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Tuesday is time to catch up on the latest in Korea's cultural front. Take a look at the screen to find out more.
When we talk about Korean culture, one thing that always comes to mind is the Korean wave, a term referring to the global spread of Korean culture. If you're interested in learning more about K-culture, there is a brand new encyclopedia that you might find both handy and insightful.
So today on NewsGen, we're giving you a sneak peek into this very interesting book titled The Encyclopedia of Hallyu. So Jian, could you please tell us more about this book in general?
Of course. Well, this book, known as Encyclopedia of Hallyu, is a comprehensive reference designed to accurately introduce Korean Hallyu to fans. Hallyu fans to the customs, sentiments, and everyday culture that Koreans experience every single day. So recently compiled by the National Folk Museum of Korea, this dictionary covers various aspects of Korean life, including food, clothing, and housing, as well as locations, historical events, traditional games, honorifics, and emotions. It also delves into pop culture phenomena such as K-pop, drama, films, and webtoons, alongside the history and evolution of Hallyu. Well, they have these terms as well: the girl group Nugents, Wonder Girls, and drama 나의 아저씨, Oh My Mister, 꽃보다 남자, boys over flowers, and even webtoon writer Kangpul. They are among them. The publication consists of 453 entries and 800 included images in order to provide a visually engaging experience to the viewers. And the pictures are exceptionally clear. And in the case of food photography, dishes such as kimchi, which is a Korean traditional food side dish consisting of salted and fermented vegetables. And also they have this kimbap picture, a Korean dish made from cooked rice, vegetables, sometimes meat or seafood that is rolled in kim. These are captured in an incredibly appetizing way. You should look at the pictures as well soon. And by the end of this year, an English translation will be released soon, followed by Chinese and Spanish editions as well. This is available for free download from the National Folk Museum of Korea. So what are you waiting for?
Wow, I hope we can get the other language versions of this Hallyu encyclopedia very soon. I'm sure that a lot of our viewers who are watching are eagerly waiting for this new edition. So as Juyeon mentioned, this encyclopedia covers basically everything a K-culture fan needs to know, from Koreans' daily lives to the history of the Korean wave, and even some of the most iconic moments in Korean pop culture. And since there is so much to explore, the book consists of hundreds of pages. We've selected 5 key terms that offer the clearest snapshot of Korea's latest cultural trends. So to help us break this down, our panelists will introduce them one by one. So Sang-hyuk, could you first start off with our first keyword?
Yeah, so the first keyword is 간장 계란밥. It's a rice with fried eggs and soy sauce. And by the way, it's my favorite breakfast. It's easy to make and brings back my appetite. So rice with egg and soy sauce is a simple yet nutritious meal that people of all ages have enjoyed for a long time in Korea. It is made with basic ingredients such as rice, soy sauce, fried eggs, sesame oil, and perilla oil. And you can make this dish by mixing a fried egg and soy sauce with warm rice. And depending on personal preference, butter can be used instead of sesame oil. And gochujang, which is Korean red pepper paste, or ketchup can replace butter, soy sauce here. And this dish gained popularity during the industrialization era when there were more dual-income households rising to the surface, because it was easy and fast to make.
Right, definitely. So this has sort of become a soul food among Koreans, and it kind of brings back memories.
For me
right. I think it's a soul food for many of us who grew up here in Korea. Now, we just talked about a popular dish in Korea. Juyeon, let's now talk about a term that really shows the lifestyle of Koreans.
Yes, of course. Well, by the way, you're making us very hungry. Well, among the Korean words that foreigners are most familiar with, 빨리빨리 is likely at the top of the list. It is a Korean phrase meaning in a very short amount of time, or quickly. It reflects a Korean cultural emphasis on speed and efficiency in our daily life. In fact, it is often one of the first Korean phrases that foreigners learn upon arriving in Korea. 빨리빨리. So the pace of service in restaurants and cafes, as well as administrative processes in hospitals and banks, is remarkably fast. In Korea, we have those terms: 새벽 배송, or dawn delivery, ultra fast early morning delivery service, or 총알 배송, the bullet, delivery service here, extremely rapid same day or express delivery. And there is a table bell service in Korea. This is just a call button for a service in restaurants. And by the time I finish this sentence, your food might already be at your door.
Right. So I think that this 빨리빨리, or hurry up culture is kind of embedded in almost all aspects of our lives.
Spot on. Yes.
Right. Because we also mentioned several times on Newsgen that 빨리빨리 is sort of like the most defining trait of Korean culture and Koreans. Okay, so we're now going to move on to our third term. We're going to introduce the Romanized version of this Korean term because it has dual meanings, which means that it can be a bit tricky for non-native speakers to grasp when they first encounter this term. So Sang-hyuk, help us understand this.
Okay, so I'll 빨리빨리 move on to the next keyword. Okay, the next keyword is 말아먹다. The Korean expression 말아먹다 is often used in situations like when you mess things up, or when you waste money, or when you ruin a family or business. It has a negative meaning, referring to losing wealth, failing at something, or completely destroying something. However, when written separately as 말아먹다, with the space in between, as you can see here on the screen, it means something completely different. It means to mix rice into soup and eat it. So it refers to soaking rice in broth and eating the rice and soup together. The original meaning of 말아먹다, that is mixing food and the soup, gradually took on a figurative symbol representing to expend and describe squandering money or failing business.
So hope our explanation helps you reduce your confusion when you encounter this term 말아먹다. We're now going to move on to our fourth term, and we mentioned this a few times on Newsgen recently because of that mega hit song, right, Gio?
That is right. We're talking about Rose's apartment, or APT, apartment. In Korea, the term 술 game, or drinking game, is so deeply rooted inside our culture, inside our social culture, and it even became the title of a popular song that I'm talking about. It's no surprise that the term 술 game or drinking game is included in the dictionary. Korea has a strong culture of gathering for meals and drinks, especially in workplace settings or even in schools. With a naturally lively spirit, Koreans enjoy playing games during these gatherings in order to strengthen their ties, bonds, relationships, and create a fun atmosphere. Some of the most well-known drinking games, I'm going to teach you some of them. 눈치 game, you know, 눈치 game, and also 369 game, 손병호 game, and Baskin Robbins 31 game. If you are interested, please look it out. These all add an extra layer of fun, creating a very fun activities for them. This culture remains especially strong in university MTs, or known as membership training. We don't know who created that word, where students bond through drinking games and shared experiences, even though it faded a little bit after COVID-19. And so drinking games are seen as a way to connect each other, bringing people closer and reinforcing a strong sense of 우리, we, in a social circle.
A very big part of the community or group culture if you are an adult here in Korea. All right, so far we've looked at 4 keywords. We have just one more left. Sang-hyuk, please take your turn.
Yes, so the last expression is deeply rooted in Korea's unique culture of collectivism or being considerate of others. That is 언제 밥 한 번 먹자, which can be translated as let's have meals sometimes. So Koreans often say let's have a meal sometimes as a casual farewell. So most of the time this isn't a serious invitation, but more of a polite way to say goodbye. It's a way of expressing that the two people are close enough to share a meal. But I saw some funny videos on YouTube recently where foreigners sometimes misunderstand this as a real meal plan and take it literally, leading to a confusing situation.
I see, definitely. All right, so we're now going to take the time to listen to our viewers. We also asked them which Korean words or expressions they're most familiar with. And here's what 3 of them had to say. Our first comment for this Tuesday is by Benny97, 고생 끝에 낙이 온다, meaning at the end of hardship comes happiness in English. This resonates with me because after every bit of work I do, I will get to smile. Our second comment, Yuria11, Koreans often say let's have a meal together later, and it's just a greeting, not an actual plan, as Sang-hyuk mentioned. It wasn't too confusing for me because in Finland, we also say similar things even though they rarely happen. UFSA22, an interesting linguistic trait I see in Koreans is they tend to replace my with our, like our mom instead of my mom. Well, thank you for all those comments. Coming up, we'll be joined by an American millennial currently living in Korea who will share his thoughts on Korean culture. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
We're now going to welcome American millennial Brandon M. Jones to the show. Great to have you back on the show, Brandon.
Hello, everyone. How's it going today? Thanks for having me back.
Thank you for joining us once again. So, Brandon, the 5 keywords our panelists introduced included some Korean idioms that are commonly used in everyday culture. I'm sure you will know them well. But are there any Korean idioms or slangs or expressions that surprised or confused you when you first heard of them?
Yeah, there's one that was really interesting to me. I guess it's called kimchi 국부터 마시지 마라. Was one that really stuck with me. The idea of don't drink the kimchi soup first as a warning against jumping to conclusions is so culturally specific. It really highlights the importance of patience and not counting your chickens before they hatch in a very Korean way.
That's right, 김치국부터 마시지 말자. So I'm going to ask you the second question before I go. Well, if you had to choose, what would you say is the most defining or unique trait of Korean culture?
Oh, there's so many, but the one that really sticks with me is the strong sense of community and collectivism. So the emphasis of 우리 or we, which reflects a deep-seated value for shared experiences and mutual support. And I think this is really evident in everything you guys do, the communal dialing and national pride.
Okay, Brandon, as a last question, is there any aspect of Korean culture that you think international fans might not be familiar with but deserves more recognition or could gain popularity in the future?
I think one would be like the Korean arts like pansori or traditional Korean paintings like minhwa. They deserve more recognition. These art forms hold so much history and cultural depth, and they offer a fantastic window into the Korean soul. And I wish more people discover the beauty of Korean culture through these arts and its like surge in popularity.
And Brandon, for our viewers who are watching who might be interested in the examples that you mentioned, do you have any recommendations for a specific place that they could check them out?
Just come to Seoul. Anywhere in Seoul is good. Just good food, good music, a lot of good festivals, concerts, everything is going good here. So if you guys come to Seoul, you'll have a great time. You'll be able to experience Korean culture to the fullest. Not like in the dramas, it's a little bit different.
Definitely. All right, Brandon, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Have a good day, you guys.
And you too.
Have a good week.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so ending off our episode today, I want to ask our panelists, if you had the chance to update this encyclopedia of Hallyu, what would you like to add?
Well, Korean pop culture is definitely evolving and ever evolving, so it would be great to see the dictionary continuously updated with this trendy trend, up-to-date information reflecting current shifts in Hallyu as well. So perhaps sections on popular social media trends and emerging subcultures here could be added to fully showcase the energy and diversity of modern Korean culture here. For example, do you know this term 만반 잘부?
Oh, please help us.
You don't know it, you're the woman of the internet.
I know, but just for our viewers.
Well, it is short for 만나서 반가워, 잘 부탁해, meaning nice to meet you, let's get along. So, and also, do you know the term 억텐?
I think I've heard,
I've
heard of it.
Yes, it is short for
억지 텐션?
That is correct. 억지 텐션, meaning forcing enthusiasm, exaggerated reactions to seem more fun or entertaining. Sometimes we those have 억지 텐션. So terms like these words have rapidly become part of our life, our everyday speech, especially among younger generations. So because in Korea, even trends move at bali speed, these words should definitely be on the dictionary soon.
And I think that this definitely should be part of this encyclopedia, because although we can learn Korean, our viewers who are watching can learn them through taking online classes or the King Sejong Institute. But these everyday expressions that you mentioned, it's really hard to learn them and obtain them, which could be another way this encyclopedia could become handy and helpful.
That's right.
And what would you like to add?
Well, there are many expressions that represent the unique cultural characteristics of Korea, and we have some keywords that you cannot find often in other countries. And one of them is 아니, which means no. But here, this 아니 or no does not mean to reject something or to be negative about something, but it's actually a filler that many Koreans use in front of a sentence when they're about to say something important or about to spill a tea or gossip to a close friend. So 아니 does not literally mean no as of yes or no, but it's actually a word that emphasizes what you're about to say. So for instance, if I say 아니, 내 말 좀 들어봐. 지난번에 무슨 일이 있었냐면은 this could be translated as, hey guys, you gotta hear about this. You will not gonna believe what I'm going to say.
It doesn't mean no.
Yeah, it doesn't mean no, but it's a sign of importance or highlight that I'm about to say something very intriguing, like a gossip.
Definitely. So hope the National Folk Museum of Korea takes these into consideration. And that's all we have for this episode of News Generation, but we will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks today to Kwon-Ji-Yeon.
Have a lovely day, Eugene.
You too, and thank you. And
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for spending time with us, and hope you join us tomorrow as well. We are News Generation.
How to survive in Korea. Barbecue restaurants. Step 1. Taking care of your clothes. Put your jacket in the plastic bag. Seal it tight. If the stool flips open, store your clothes inside. Wearing light colors? Grab an apron. It's the best defense against oil splatter and smoke. Step 2. Bottomless side dishes. Basic side dishes at a barbecue restaurant. Eat, eat and eat as much as you want. Side dishes come with free refills.